Hey everybody, I'm back with another recommendation. This is going to be my second one today. So if you haven't watched the one on Exo Man of War, go check that one out now. I was just saying there that I was gone to Windy City Pulp and Paperback Convention to pick up the trophy for Best Novel of 2016 for The Sentinels, Volume 8, The Dark Crusade, and to pick up Chris Kohler's trophy that I'm going to send to him for the art for that book. So we're so excited and we're so appreciative for all the voters out there. What I'm about now is I'm going to do another recommendation. This will be my second one for this weekend. And this one, I think this is a darn good time to be making it because living as I do in Metro St. Louis, just over the river in Illinois, I'm in the same area as Glen Cook, the legendary science fiction and fantasy author. And I see Glen at least once a year at Archon, the local convention. I've seen him at other conventions too, and I've had good conversations with him. In fact, I even pointed out to him a couple of times that I actually quote one of his characters in one of his books as one of the opening quotes in one of my, I think it's my third one, yeah, Legion 3 Kings of Oblivion, which was another award-winning book. So, well, Glen's been in the news lately because his Black Company, right? Let's just Google this to make sure, because I haven't actually read Black Company. But I'm going to get you the actual information here while I'm talking. Black Company, it's a series of fantasy novels by Glen Cook, and it's about a sort of a mercenary band of soldiers back in this fantasy world, and they end up getting involved with this woman called the Lady, who is a very powerful sorceress of some sort, and there's a prophecy coming true, and these are very beloved books that he has written. I've read other stuff by Glen. I haven't read The Black Company. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because it's just been picked up by television. So it's going to be made into a TV series with Eliza Dushku. She's going to be producing it and starring as the Lady, apparently. And looking forward to seeing that come to fruition. So while Glen Cook is in the news this week, and apparently there are 10 volumes in it, I see. While he's in the news this week, I'll also point out that let me see the publisher. Nightshade Books. They have been putting out his back catalog in new editions. Now, when I was back in high school, I believe it was Warner Books put out these little mass market paperback size. I don't have them anymore, they're long gone, but these mass market size paperbacks of a series called the Starfishers Trilogy. And a couple of years ago, Nightshade Books started putting out updated versions of them. Shadowline is one of them. And the second volume of that trilogy is called Starfishers, and it's the Starfishers Trilogy. And then the third volume is called Star's End. I'm trying to get it. This is hard to do. Being a spokesmodel is hard to do. It's hard work. Okay, so there's the three. And this is also a current thing because while these came out 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago even maybe, and I reread Shadowline, so it's more fresh in my memory. But while that just happened, I noticed at the book at Barnes & Noble just a few days ago that the whole trilogy has now come out as a single omnibus volume containing the whole thing. So you can probably go on Amazon or go to Barnes & Noble or wherever and find these separately or probably in one big omnibus volume. And let me see. Yeah, I got Glen to sign my copies, which is cool. Let me tell you just a little bit about them real quick, why you should be interested, why you should care, if you like space opera, science fiction, whatever. This book is interesting in that this one is basically like the Thor, Loki, Balder, Ragnarok story as told as space opera. Ostensibly, it's not. The main, what's happening in the main plot thread here is a battle taking place between mercenary armies on the the planet. What's it called? Oh shoot! Oh, it's a planet, Black World. I think it's called Black World. Yeah, Black World, which is like Dune on steroids. It's like the sun is burned so bright on the surface that only in the shadows of these mountains can you actually live and do work. But it's got great mining, you know, a lot of resources. And so people brave these deadly conditions to go out into the shadow line and try to mine stuff and bring it back in their crawlers. So there's that going on. There's an interstellar war going on. There's a lot of backstory. There's some really interesting stuff. There's a lot of revenge. It's got fascinating characters. So, and it's a very unusual book. Cook really brings something unusual and unique to a lot of his work. From what I remember of Starfishers, it's more of like a secret agent book where these two agents from Earth are out among these people called the Starfishers or the High Signers. I think it's High Signers, and I thought, isn't that funny? The High Sign is High Signers, but they actually go out and gather up the ambergris, the leavings from these giant like space whale type creatures that's really valuable. And so they are starfishers, and they have like their own culture out among the stars where they never land on a planet. They're always in these big ships. That I remember. And then Stars In, the third volume, let's put it this way. If you've seen Babylon 5, A Voice in the Wilderness, with Drawl and the Epsilon 3 and what was going on down there, where that planet would defend itself from with like ancient weapons on autopilot, basically. That's kind of what you have here. Star's End. Actually, I said that to Glen one time. I said, Glen, do you realize that Babylon 5 kind of copied Star's End? And he's like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. But I'm like, well, gosh, the first time I saw it, it jumped right out to me. I'm not accusing JMS of ripping anything off. I mean, these are all classic sci-fi ideas. But what I'm saying is, if you like that idea of World Without End on Babylon 5, then you might want to check out Star's End. The whole trilogy is very good. And like I said, it's just come out in... it's got a little wrinkle there, dang. But it's just come out in an omnibus collection of all three books together. So, Shadowline, a great standalone book. You don't even need to read the other two if you enjoy it. But the other two add something to it, too. So, great space opera. And you know... while I'm talking about great space opera, let me throw one more in. Let me turn around here and see if I see it. Here it is, yeah. This is one of my favorite space opera books. I'm just going to mention it, too, while I'm on here talking to you about space opera. This is Vernor Vinge's A Fire Upon the Deep. There are other books. There's at least one more. I got it right here. It's called A Deepness in the Sky. Okay. That one I don't like as much. It's a little creepier, a little yuckier. Some of the characters are not very savory. But I definitely want to recommend A Fire Upon the Deep. This is so far in the far future that it's unimaginable. It's got two separate plots that eventually blend together. One involving people on a starship that are basically in a race across the galaxy trying to prevent a catastrophe. And the other plot line involves these little dog-like aliens on a medieval level world that get involved with some humans that get shipwrecked there, and the two plots do dovetail together. So there's just some great stuff in here, some brilliant, mind-blowing, far future sci-fi concepts, great writing from Vernor Vinge, and also I want to see what year it came out. 92, yeah. Because he wrote this in 1992. Hard to imagine it's that old. You won't know it's that old at all, I promise, when you read it. In fact, a lot of it reminded me of like a super serious version of Farscape. And that's going to sound weird. And some of you that have even read it are going to go, Farscape? Where did he get that from? But when I think about the Scrode Riders, for some reason I kept imagining, what's his name in the little floating chair? The Muppet and the float. But anyway... I've probably annoyed the people that have read it and turned off the people that haven't. But trust me, it's a fantastic book. I've gotten a lot of inspiration from it for some of my work. And you know, hey, what? You know what? Again, this is stuff that wouldn't make a whole show by itself, but I'm going to go ahead and roll it out here. While we're talking about great space opera, I happen to have right behind me two more. This is Scott Westerfeld. And... And there we go. This is the first one. This is Scott Westerfeld. Book 1, The Risen Empire, and Book 2 is The Killing of Worlds. It's really one big story. They just split it in half to make 2 volumes out of it. This is a more recent trade paperback edition of it. I actually had a smaller edition, but I don't know where it is, of the original mass market paperback. I got to give a shout out to my friend Bobby Polite, the co-creator of the Sentinels with me. He had it in hardcover, The Risen Empire, and really recommended it to me. The beginning has got a fantastic opening scene that really pulls you in. That's what you want any book to do. And I'm mentioning them because Westerfeld these days pretty much writes young adult and fantasy and steampunk type stuff. And I hate that because that's not stuff I want to read. And I keep telling him, go back and write more space opera, adult space opera, because this is great. This is a fantastic read. It's such a great space opera. It's basically, again, the far future. You've got the Emperor is the guy that has figured out how to keep people alive forever. He's basically developed a form of immortality for the wealthy people in the Empire that can afford it. It's a strange kind of immortality, but through that, he's essentially blackmailed the Empire to make him the Emperor. But everything is predicated around the creepy nature of how it works. There's also a sort of a Borg-like people in it that are the enemy, or are they? And lots of good space-going military and political action. So I give a big thumbs up to Scott Westerfeld, The Risen Empire. The one question I always had for him, and he's never answered. I've asked him on Twitter. I've asked him here and there. I miss him at DragonCon every year. He's always there, and I miss him. The question I always have is, the ship in this series is the main one that the main character on is called the Lancaster, and the symbol of the ship is the white rose. And I keep wanting to ask him, are you making a commentary that people later in history have forgotten the specifics of history, and so they think that the Lancasters were the white rose and not the red rose? Shouldn't it be the York if it's the white rose, or shouldn't the symbol be a red rose if it's the Lancaster? Or was this just a mistake that nobody caught? Like you just picked the wrong color and nobody ever caught the mistake? I want to know that, but he's never answered. He's never answered me. I'm going to track him down at DragonCon or some other convention one day and get him in front of everybody. I'm going to be like, Scott, you can't get away this time. I want to know, did you mean for it to be the wrong flower, or is that a mistake? But anyway, everything else about it, and that's a stupid little silly thing, but everything else about it is great. So, again, your recommendations, the Starfishers Trilogy by Glen Cook, the A Fire Upon the Deep by Vernor Vinge, and The Risen Empire duology. I think the whole thing is called Succession, but the first book is called The Risen Empire by Scott Westerfeld. Those are your 3 space opera recommendations for today, so run right out and grab those, and you will not be sorry. All right, we're going to wrap it up here. We're at about 13 minutes, so we're going to wrap up, and we'll be back with a more long-form show coming up soon. I've got several podcasts that are in the works coming out this week. We just put out the Two Towers audio podcast. John and I will be recording the Return of the King podcast coming up soon. People seem to be enjoying those. Those have gotten like lots of downloads, the first 2 episodes of that, so that's really cool. And we're working on we've got a new Babylon 5 rewatch with Jared Albrick and me. That'll be coming out soon. There's a new Comics with Normies coming out soon. So be looking for those on audio. And basically, be sure, if you haven't already, to join our Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can help support the stuff that we're doing. I'm doing these videos as just sort of a bonus, extra reward content for people that are already paying the money, but also to try to recruit new people to join the Patreon to help White Rocket to produce more material. We want to keep cranking out the stuff, and we need your help to do it. So go to Patreon, patreon.com/Van Allen Plexico, or just go to patreon.com and search for Plexico, and you will see me. And help us get toward our goal of being able to keep our podcasts on the air. It costs money, right? I mean, like I say on the Patreon page, everything we do makes money except the podcasts and the videos, which cost money. We just do them basically for your entertainment and for our own fun, but they cost money to keep up on the air, and so we need your help to do that, and we appreciate it. All right, so we're going to get on out of here, and be sure to check out the podcast, check out those books, and go to whiterocketbooks.com to see all the stuff that we have available now. And we will see you guys down the road.